I'm going to talk about Pascal. Blaise Pascal was a very mathematical man. He came up with Pascal's triangle is a concept in geometry. Pascal was very well regarded in the world of mathematics. But one of the things he came up with was Pascal came up with this thing called Pascal's wager. And Pascal's wager is basically an argument that we should believe in God because it is a good bet. Okay? That's basically all it is. It's saying it's a good bet, it's a good wager to believe in God. And Pascal basically says there's two questions you can ask. One is there a God? And the other one is, do you believe in God? Now, these two are completely independent. You can believe in God and there isn't a God. You could believe in God and there is. You could not believe in God and there's a God. You could not believe in God and there isn't a God. I mean, your belief in God doesn't affect whether or not there is a God. Those are two independent things. You can believe and there not be one, and you can not believe and there not be one. Your belief is really your own thing. But he says, if you believe in God and you really fervently believe that there is a God, then you will live a different life, right? You will give up things. You will say, I want to honor this thing I see as God. And so you will go to church. You will maybe not, hate your brother, and you'll give up and sacrifice and give to charity and help one another and do things like that. If you don't believe in God, you won't have any worry about that. You'll just sort of be like, hey, it's Sunday morning, I'll sleep in, right? I won't worry about this. I won't bother with this. And so, for Pascal, as far as Pascal goes, he doesn't try to argue for the fact that, he's basically saying, if you believe in God, you're going to give up some stuff and try to live a better life. And if you don't believe in God, you won't. Okay? Now, the other side of the coin is you are basically giving up some pleasure in life by believing in God. And that doesn't matter if God exists or not. Okay? That's what you're going to do. But he suggests that if you give up that pleasure in life, when you die, you will get to go to heaven if God exists. And if God doesn't exist, then you're going to go to hell. And even if you believe that, in some Christian and some Jewish traditions, there's not necessarily such a belief in the afterlife. There's not a strong belief in that. Or the belief is that, when you die, you're dead, but you are resurrected or you come back to life if you believe in, the Christian God. That while that is true, if you don't believe in God and you don't get resurrected, you don't get to go back to heaven or to live an afterlife, then you still missed out on something fairly significant. You've missed out on the chance at an afterlife. And so if God exists and you believed in God, you get a potential for an infinite reward. If you don't believe in God and if you don't believe in God and God exists, then you have the opportunity for an infinite loss. You have the potential to have lost out infinitely. With that said, you have an infinite gain versus an infinite loss potential. Now, with that said, we can then say, well, so you could potentially gain infinitely or lose infinitely. Now, if God doesn't exist and you believe, then when you die, nothing's going to happen. But if you believe in God, or if you don't believe in God and God doesn't exist, if God doesn't exist and you believe in God, nothing's going to happen when you die. And if you don't believe in God and God doesn't exist, when you die, nothing's going to happen. So really, as far as the afterlife goes, there's really no effect if God doesn't exist. It really only matters if God does exist. But what Pascal points out that if God exists, you're going to give up some pleasure for the potential to gain infinitely. And if you don't believe in God, then you have the potential to lose infinitely. And so what Pascal is saying is, Pascal is basically saying, look, every gambler knows, right? This is something, and I was looking to see if I had just a dollar bill. I do not have just a dollar bill. I have a $20 bill in my pocket. I could go look for quarters or something if you wanted. But so let's suppose you have an opportunity to gamble, and somebody says, all right, here's $20, okay? Now, as far as that goes, if you are willing to wager $20, it's a $20 ticket, and there's a 50-50 chance, okay? If you can tell me which hand this $20 bill is going to end up in, okay? And you do this, right? And you figure out which one it's going to be in, right? So, you know, right now you go, okay, point at the hand that it's in. Is it in this one or this one? A or B? Okay? All of you who said B just won that. But they didn't win the $20. Instead, what you won was $1 billion, okay? And what I would say is, if somebody said to you, and you knew this was a legitimate, fair, 50-50 bet, this is being administered by, you know, somebody of utmost repute, that, you know, a genie has come to you and said, look, for $20, I'll give you a wager, right? You bet $20, and if you get it right, 50-50, which hand is the $20 bill in, and you get it right, then I will give you $1 billion, right? But if you get it wrong, I get to keep your $20, right? Now, if you believe that this is a legitimate wager, and let's suppose we do, delay your skepticism. Oh, they're just trying to get $20 out of me, or because you can do it with $1. $1 is even less, a quarter, a penny, right? That if you did that, you know, and somebody came to you with that bet, you'd be silly not to take that bet. Why? Because all you have the potential to do is lose $20. I mean, $20 is not a huge amount of money. I mean, I'm using 20, but, you know, $1. Let's suppose it's $1. All you can lose is $1. You should take that wager. Why? Because you have the potential to win so much more, right? You have the potential to win $1 billion. Why would you not? Why would you hold on? Why wouldn't you take the wager? It would be silly not to. And this is one aspect of it, but the other idea is what they call. If any of you have ever played poker, they have a thing called pot odds. And pot odds are the idea, like, for example, if you're playing Texas Hold'em. If you've ever played Texas Hold'em, every person is dealt 2 cards. You know, 2 cards. But then they put down 3 cards in the middle, and then they deal 2 more cards. And out of those 5 cards that are in the middle, that are all face up, everybody who has 2 cards gets to make the best hand out of them. So if you have, say, for example, an ace and a king of spades, and there's a queen, jack, and 10 of spades, then you've just got a royal flush, okay? And you're going to beat everybody. But if, you know, if on the other hand, somebody else might have, you know, 2 queens in their hand. They might have 3 other queens in their hand. Or they couldn't possibly have 3 other queens. Never mind. So then there's 2 queens, you know, a queen that got dealt. Maybe the other queen pops up. They've got 4 queens. They think they got a pretty good hand themselves. Not paying attention to the fact that you've got a royal flush sitting there. And so what happens is you do that. Well, one thing that happens is they deal out 3 cards and you get a chance to wager. They put out a 4th card and you get a chance to wager. They put out the 5th card and you get a chance to wager. Now what happens is that, you know, suppose you're just going for a flush. A flush is where you have all 5 cards of the same suit. Suppose you have 2 spades, ace and king of spades, and in the first 3 cards comes out a 2 of spades and a 7 of spades, right? Now, if you have a flush, ace high, you know, that's a pretty decent hand. I mean, it's going to beat a lot of things. I mean, it's not going to beat everything, but it's going to beat a lot of stuff. So now you get a chance to wager. Now, the case is you don't know what any of the other cards in anybody else's hands are. You don't know what the next card in the deck is. But you do know that you have seen 5 out of 52 cards, right? Which means there's 47 cards left to be determined. And you know that that there are 13 spades in a deck. And you know 4 of them you've seen. So there's 9 spades left in this deck with 47 in it. Which means you've got about a 1 in 5 shot that the next card is a spade. And because you're going to get to see 2 more cards, you actually have like a 2 out of 5. You got a 40% chance that you're going to get a spade. And so if the pot is sitting there and it has $50 in it, and in order to bet and get to see the next card, you have to put $5 in. Every gambler knows, even though you know that your chances of winning are only about 40%, you have a less than 50% chance of winning, right? Chances are you're going to lose your money. If you have to bet $5 for a chance to win 50, and you've got a 40% chance in the next two cards, or at least in this next card, you've got a 20% chance, then you take the bet. And the reason is because the potential win outweighs the potential percentage-wise loss chances. And so what is called as pot odds, that, you know, if you have a 1 in 4 shot of winning this hand, if the next card comes up what you want, but you're wagering $1 to win 10, well, then you always take it. Because if you bet for $1 4 times, you'll lose $4. But the fourth time, you're going to win 10. And so you're going to win in the long run. And that's exactly what the house does in Vegas, is they bet the odds that, you know, they realize they're not going to win every hand. Sometimes people are going to walk out winners. They actually want that because that encourages them to come back. But the case is that, you know, they realize that it's the odds over time that they will win more money than not. And that's basically what he's saying. Is he's saying there is enough on the table to wager that you should take the bet. The money you're wagering, $20, versus what's in that pot to win, the $1 billion, the $1 million, whatever it be, an eternal happiness is enough to weigh out and make it worth the bet. Now, if you want to read through this section, there is a discussion board where you are going to be asked to say, what are some of the problems with this? There are a lot of problems that can come up with this. Some of you may already say, well, but what about this or what about that? And that's what I'm asking you to do, is to look at what you see as a problem with Pascal's wager. So, I won't talk about the problems right now because I want you to think about what they could be.